Transport Minister Blade Nzimande has arrived at the Mariannhill Toll Plaza. Our reporter Sbongakonke Mbatha is standing by for us and she's with him. Sbongakonke, what's the latest where you are?
A very good afternoon to you, Nompu. We are still coming to you live from the Mariannhill Toll Plaza. We do understand that this is the last day after the long Easter weekend, and many motorists who are predominantly worshippers, one might like to believe, are making their way back to their respective destinations. And earlier this morning, during my crossing, I did highlight that there's a lot of activity happening here at the plaza because it's a multidisciplinary checkup in terms of safety, roadworthiness, drinking and driving, to ensure that motorists coming into the province and motorists going outside the province are going up safe. The cars are roadworthy so that there can be no further accidents happening as they make their way to their preferred destinations. But just to get an overview in terms of how this long weekend has been on the roads, I have with me the Minister of Transport in the country, Blade Nzimande. A very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you and the viewers and the listeners.
Yes, of course. I understand that you are here to participate in this multidisciplinary roadblock assessment that is ensuring safety as hundreds, if not thousands, are making their way home.
Yes, I am here as part of the road safety awareness campaign and enforcement as well. We think that it is very important that we are here because, by the way, even visibility of police does contribute a lot in containing road crashes, including fatalities and injuries. You know, they started here. I joined them. They already started at 9 this morning. When I arrived here about half an hour or so ago, they had stopped around 660 vehicles. What is a bit disturbing is that out of those, 10% had all sorts of violations. You know. Some of the vehicles were not roadworthy. There were people who were driving without licenses. There were cars that are not registered, you know, on the road, which shows that 10% is very high. You know, that it means on average, if we were to use today's standard, you know, 10% of users of our roads, drivers, you know, owners or drivers of vehicles, they just got onto the road without actually respecting the rules of the road, which is a big challenge that we've got to deal with as government. But nevertheless, we are at least heartened by the fact that compared to this time last year, you know, or the Monday this time of last year's Easter weekend, fatalities are reduced by 40%, which is significant. Of course, we would not like to see a single soul being lost on our roads, you know. But unfortunately, we still have these numbers, but we are pleased that the numbers are down. And we attribute that largely to the fact that we have increased visibility of law enforcement officers, which is one thing that actually contributes to less road crashes. That is why also for the first time, by the way, this year, we are going to recruit 1,000 new trainees as law enforcement. We've never in the history of our country recruited so many in actually 1 year, because we believe that we have to increase the numbers if we are going to be able to enforce the rules of the road. Of course, being on the road and visibility is important, but it's not the only thing, you know. People, we need to tighten the laws and enforcement of those laws. Like drunken driving, you know, we're going now to be treating it as a much more serious offense. As I've always said, if you get into a car drunk, you are a potential murderer. You'll either kill yourself or kill other innocent users of the road. That we are going to be very hard. We've got a new breathalyzer, which I must correct myself now. It's going to be testing the level of alcohol in the blood and not blood in the alcohol. Although my mistake seems to have worked, have done the trick, everybody is aware now. You know, we have got a new breathalyzer that's going to, which I was launching a couple of weeks ago, which is going to help us, you know, that we are able to test alcohol levels much quicker than we've been doing so far. So those are some of the new measures, you know, the numbers we are going to be employing this new breathalyzer. By the way, the other things that we are testing now is roadworthiness, because that's another issue. For instance, one of the vehicles that was stopped here was a minibus taxi, which had 15 passengers. When the law enforcement officers with experience were testing it, we had to pull it out on the road. We had to scrap it immediately. It looks like it was involved in a terrible accident before, never properly fixed. I'm told even the passengers were shocked that they were actually driving in a coffin, essentially. So those are the things that requires us to be much more vigilant. And of course we're worried about the weather, in many parts of this province, that it's been raining even here. It looks like it's gonna rain, and that usually is a nightmare for us. We're calling upon drivers even at this time, The weather is like this. Please leave earlier. Please keep your driving distance. Please, if we are doing a long distance, take a rest after every 2 hours. We want our people to enjoy our roads. We have got amongst the best highways in the world. They are beautiful, very nice. But if we don't use them correctly, they are killers.
Minister, earlier on you did mention that it's quite an alarming figure of those who continue not to comply with some of the rules of the road. You mentioned the figure of cars that had to be pulled out of the road. What is the department going to do to ensure that eventually all motorists understand and comprehend this caution on the road and roadworthiness of cars? Because it seems like compliance is not really 100% and they're refusing to comply.
You see, on our side, given the assessment we've made over the years, and what my predecessors, ministers of transport have also done, we, however, still have room for improvement. We really want to go big on 365 days checking and road safety measures, so that we do not only just focus on the Easter weekend and the festive season, much as inevitably at that time we have to heighten, but road safety measures and enforcement, we want it truly to be a 365 days operation. That's why also we are increasing the numbers of law enforcement. We are going to be training quite significantly as we are actually moving forward. Tightening of the laws. We have to be tough. We just must be merciless insofar as punishing people who are not observing the rules of the road. For the sake of all road users, we actually have to do that. Like as I have said, drunken driving, we're going to be treating it as a much more serious offense than we've actually done so far. And we are implementing, as soon as the president signs into law, what we know as the ARTO bill, that will allow us to deduct points. You are now, as a driver, going to have 12 points each year. So you commit an offense, we take 1 point. If it's much more serious, we take 2 or 3 points. If before the end of the year we have taken 12 points, we are no longer supposed to be on the road. We're going to suspend your license, and if we find you driving, we're going to be tough, or even take it away permanently if we're a serious offender.
Considering, let's take it back to Thursday when the Easter weekend first started. We woke up to the tragic news of the cyclist in Centurion who was knocked over and passed away in a hit and run. Minister, talk to us about the type of roads where cyclists are allowed. How inclusive are our roads of cyclists? Because we do understand that 2 months prior, here in Umdloti, a cyclist was also hit on the road. And 6 months prior to that, in Gauteng, another cyclist was hit off. So what are the rules in terms of cyclists and being included on the roads? Which roads can they use and which roads can't they use? And specifically to that matter, how many roads in Pretoria perhaps are inclusive of cyclists, because there seems to be more cyclists in that area?
Generally, our roads in South Africa are not inclusive of cyclists. That's a challenge going forward, And we are not saying it's a luxury. In fact, it's nice to have more and more people cycling to work or doing it for recreation, because it keeps people fit. It saves us the cost in the health system of all sorts of diseases that arise out of the fact that people do not exercise. So that's an engineering challenge, in partly to make sure that maybe all the new roads we built in built-up areas, they do have safer cycling routes, But also it's about education and the seriousness. In other countries, it's much more serious to run over a cyclist than to actually hit another car if you are in a vehicle. Those are the laws that we've got to tighten. But for now, of course, our priority and the pressure point is just still on having good roads, having good rural access roads, dealing with potholes. Those are still our much more immediate priorities, much as our thinking in terms of road construction in future. We have to take into account pedestrians, by the way. Half of our road fatalities are pedestrians. And the highest number is here in this municipality, in the whole country, at Tegui. So it's very important. We are focusing on the engineering side of road construction such that our roads are user-friendly to pedestrians and people like cyclists who would like to be on their bicycles as one way of going to work or for recreational purposes.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just lastly, an overall overview of all the provinces this past Easter weekend. How has it been, and which province proved to have given you more activity in terms of accidents and fatalities over the past weekend?
So far it looks much better. As I have said, at the moment compared to this time last year, there are 40% less road fatalities. And the two provinces that have contributed a lot to that is KZN and Gauteng, which we are pleased about because they are usually the two provinces that contribute more to fatalities and injuries on our roads. So it looks like there is an improvement. There are things that are being done right, and we are very proud of that. Part of my being here is to encourage our law enforcement officers to say, you guys, we are with you. We have to save South African lives. Let our people enjoy the roads rather than being killed on our roads.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
That was, of course, a Minister of Transport in the country, Blade Nzimande, highlighting and giving us a view as to how the festive weekend went. He is, of course, mentioning that there is a recorded significant decrease in terms of fatalities. Further mentioning Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, seeing that it's provinces that improved compared to last Easter holidays. And, of course, fatalities have decreased, but motorists continue to not comply, some of them, because he did mention that over 600 cars had to be pulled out of the road just this morning alone. So it is an indication. He did say that there is room for improvement, but motorists continue to be urged to practice extreme caution and, of course, comply with the rules of the road. It's back to studio.
Very much for that. That was my colleague Sbongakonke Mbatha reporting there from KZN. We're going